Welcome to Colorado's implementation story. Our Colorado DBI team includes Jason Harlecker. He was a former MTSS specialist here at CDE, now working for the American Institutes for Research. Myself, Veronica Fiedler, I am the Specific Learning Disabilities Specialist at CDE. Sarah Benz and Lindsay Hayes, both from NCII, have been invaluable to us on this team. Wendy Sawtell from CDE was with this team since the very inception of our DBI work. She has recently retired. And then Jenny Gonzalez, our State Transformation Specialist here at CDE, has also been an integral part of this team. Our initial reason for reaching out to work with NCII was to seek help with alignment across the department. The original team saw the opportunity to break down barriers and work across offices for special education to work more closely with general education, which was at the time part of the SIP and the Systemic Improvement Plan. As you can see from our timeline, at the start, our trajectory took a slight turn from the original vision of department alignment. We decided we would dive right into implementing DBI in the field. We piloted DBI implementation with 7 schools from Mesa 51 in Grand Junction. That happened from the spring of 2018 to spring 2019. After the pilot, we turned back to the alignment work, armed with the lessons learned from our field work. We spent time meeting with colleagues from offices across the department to see where DBI might be a value add with others' work. This shift also resulted in the creation of our DBI modules and the start of our webinar series, which consisted of 3 webinars that happened through the spring of 2021. In the fall of 2020, we started a training series involving 5 schools from 2 rural districts. We are presently developing a sustainability plan as we prepare for a shift in our relationship with NCII. Our partnership with NCII has allowed us to provide support on the use of DBI to the field through our webinar series, our online modules on DBI, the online academy, as well as the 2021 training series. Our pilot with Mesa 51 in Grand Junction included 6 days of full-day face-to-face trainings over a year. We also supported them between training days with digital resources via Moodle, CDE's learning management system. Overall, we all got a lot out of the pilot experience. For Mesa 51, it prompted a whole district MTSS training and implementation plan. One of the big ahas for schools implementing DBI was through this work, they were able to more clearly identify their areas of need in their universal and Tier 2 systems. This is something actually that we have noticed as a common byproduct of DBI implementation. The onboarding of 4 additional schools without the readiness training made us realize that we needed to create a library of training materials and support that can be used in various capacities. And some lessons learned also was that this particular training series just had too much content, 6 full days of training, and that just made it so that it wasn't really feasible to scale up. Another of our successes that came out of our lessons learned from our pilot is the library of digital resources we have started. NCII's library of training materials was very helpful in the creation of these modules. We started planning this project pre-COVID. We recorded and posted these modules in the spring of 2020 during the lockdown. As you can imagine, the pandemic experience very much supported our justification for the creation of the DBI modules. The modules were originally posted as standalone videos on the Colorado MTSS resources page. In the fall of 2020, CDE started building content for an MTSS online academy that provides participants with on-demand training across multiple topics related to MTSS in Colorado. That academy has since been launched, and the DBI modules will now become part of the CDE MTSS Online Academy. Our webinar series started in the spring of 2020 with an introduction to DBI presented by Dr. Steve Goodman, focusing on what DBI is and how to initiate implementation. In the fall of 2020, Dr. Doug Fuchs spoke about how DBI can support specially designed instruction. And in the spring of 2021, Dr. Nicole Pyle shared her expertise on using DBI to support secondary students who struggle with reading difficulties and disabilities.
One of our goals as a DBI team was to create alignment of the use of DBI and problem-solving language across CDE. To do this, we first took stock on what sort of problem-solving work was occurring at the state level. The DBI team interviewed representatives across different offices at CDE, and we asked them about their work and how they supported districts. Specifically, we asked them what problem-solving model they used and what level of educators they worked with. You can see in the results that from the 7 people we interviewed, the majority worked with district or school level personnel, and that only 28% worked with educators who worked with students at an individual level. More so, there were 5 different problem-solving models used between the offices. These data showed us that we had a need for clarity from CDE on the use of a problem-solving model, and that there's a need to provide support for those that work with individual students. So our takeaways from those interviews was that there's room for collaboration around problem solving and aligning use of a problem solving model and language across CDE. There was considerable variation in the problem solving language and models used that were taught to stakeholders, so there was an obvious willingness and need to align all those together. And there was a lot of room for training and coaching around how to support problem solving and database decisions at the individual student level. So given the willingness to collaborate around DBI, we held trainings to various CDE staff on October 19th and November 10th on DBI, providing just more information on what it is and the different steps involved with DBI. We then assessed the degree to which DBI fit within an office and the degree of overlap for an office. So we had stakeholders attend and just give us a rating of the degree to which DBI fit with their office, meaning is there willingness or opportunity to collaborate, and the degree to which DBI overlap with their office, meaning overlapping in terms of their office's work or their office's content. And we simply chose those who rated both a high degree of fit and overlap and began building relationships and building out action steps to align and collaborate around DBI with them. So one of the things that came out of our alignment and collaboration across CDE was the development of our training series. We had lots of lessons learned and content from our MESA 51 training series. However, to scale that up statewide was simply just inefficient. It was too time intensive of a pilot, and so we had to redesign and develop a new way to scale up and train schools and districts on the use of DBI. And what we developed was a train-the-trainer approach, in which we would identify a DBI coach. We would then create modules and support that DBI coach, who in turn would train their school team and school to implement DBI. They were asked to identify at least one student to learn the DBI process for and to apply the DBI process to that student. And we're happy to report that the training series was a success. We saw quite a change in the implementation of DBI as measured by our DBI survey. You can see in the upper left portion of the slide the results from baseline to post going from 3.21 to 4.23, which is a 1.02 change on a 5-point scale. So we saw quite a bit of an increase in knowledge and implementation of DBI at that school level. On the lower right is confidence ratings for our DBI coaches for the topics within the training series. So we gave them modules on each of the topics listed on the bottom there, including overview of DBI, teaming, the taxonomy of intervention intensity, how to identify students, progress monitoring, the use of diagnostic data, and then intervention adaptation. And so you can see positive increases across the board in terms of confidence ratings on training a school team on that topic, with the largest growth being the diagnostic data module. So again, although a small training series, we saw some really positive growth with it.
Hi, my name is Robin Madison. I'm the MTSS coordinator with Eagle County Schools. Eagle County is located in the heart of Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. We're a small rural district with an enrollment of about 6,400 students. We have about 36% of our students on free and reduced lunch, and 36% of our students are English language learners. So I'm going to talk to you today about the process we went through with the Colorado Department of Education for DBI. So thank you.
Avon is the elementary school that decided to participate in the DBI grant. They have a total enrollment of 304 students. Free and reduced is 75%, English language learners 76%, so a little bit higher than our district average. So we're going to look at why we did the DBI process, kind of what our process was, what we accomplished, and those next steps. So Avon had a solid RTI process in place with an MTSS coordinator. They were also in the place where they were merging two schools. We had a smaller elementary school close, and Avon was going to absorb half of the staff and half of the students. They also have a high percentage of students needing intensive supports when we look at our DIBELS universal screening data. So the principal really thought this might be a good process to pull all the pieces together, incorporate new staff, and kind of have a fresh start for their process. So our process, we did choose a second grade student in literacy for our pilot student. That student received small group instruction with a focus in phonics. The team did meet monthly, and then the other times of the month they would function as an RTI team. We had a diverse team. We had our principal, we have teacher leaders who are our coaches in our building. We had a designated team lead for the DBI process, our counselor, our teacher leaders, and our special education teachers. And then we had some smaller cohorts within that DBI team that really looked at layered continuum of support. What we accomplished, we really accomplished getting consistent agendas and consistent protocols for our meetings and a really good teaming structure that they can take forward for some other teams in their building as well. We had student growth as measured by iStation and DIBELS, and diagnostic data. The team really looked at that ISIL component and really felt like that was going to be something that they really are going to integrate into their MTSS process. Another area in that diagnostic data is really looking at opportunities to respond. Avon is a dual language building, and they really want to build language. We want to really truly build biliterate, bilingual students. And so really looking in their classrooms to see how many opportunities to respond students have in both languages. And then the one that we spent the most time on was the 7 dimensions of taxonomy, and we did a deep dive into layered continuums of support. So in that, when we looked at that universal, that was a big aha for the team. When we looked at those continuums for English and ELA, and we looked at our continuums for math, and we looked at what our continuum was for social emotional behavior, which is primarily provided by the counselor. You can see there's a lot of red and purple on there. That was where we had a lot of discrepancy across grade levels. Certain grade levels were using this, others grade levels were not, certain teachers. And so really standardizing that universal instruction was a big aha for the team. Their next steps are really instruction, fidelity, and family partners. So again, continuing to look at those tier 1 universal supports, that best first instruction, both in curriculum and instruction. They're also moving to a student-centered scheduling where they'll be doing some co-teaching and some co-teaching light. And then fidelity, really getting some fidelity checklists in place. What do they want to see when their students are receiving a tier 2 intervention? What consistent progress monitoring probes? How robust are those probes? And then family partners. They would do a great job of including families in the process, but we also need to make sure that there's a procedure so that those meetings run efficiently and effectively. The principal really felt good about the process at the end, and she feels like it has a structure that the team will be able to use going forward. We asked teachers about their biggest impact. Again, that ISIL and that riot, clarifying and solidifying processes, and then really adding fidelity to their MTSS process. So this is what we did at Avon Elementary this year. Thank you for listening and for your attention and learning about DBI at Avon.
prevailing myths about DBI implementation is that a school must have Tier 1 and Tier 2 in perfect working order before Tier 3 can be implemented. We have found that this is not the case, though there should be some level of readiness for successful implementation. As we saw in our pilot with Mesa 51, the 3 schools who had completed the 2 days of readiness training were more successful in implementing DBI than the additional schools that joined us later and did not receive that initial support. We have found that schools should have some semblance of a Tier 2 intervention, some kind of progress monitoring going on, and some evidence of some teaming structures. And this seems to be the recipe for success for DBI implementation. It doesn't have to be in perfect working order, but there should be some evidence of these 3 things. Another important lesson learned is the importance of internal capacity building. With recent turnover at CDE, we have come to understand the importance of internal capacity building. This is necessary for sustainability and scaling the work. This is one of our areas of need that we are turning our attention to. With sustainability in mind, the creation of a statewide network is another important lesson learned. Through a statewide network, we can better disseminate resources to schools through regional and district channels to ensure that we are supporting MTSS and DBI implementation with fidelity, ensuring the use of common language and supporting a common understanding of systems implementation. The creation of the MTSS Online Academy is the first step in creating this network. Presently, we are working with NCII on our sustainability plan as we move away from intensive support from NCII. Our sustainability plan focuses on 3 main buckets. The first one being the focus on building internal capacity across CDE. This summer, we will be planning and delivering training on DBI for the CDE RTI team that is working on updating our existing guidance around RTI. Later this fall, we will be training all of the Office of Learning Supports, the unit where Colorado MTSS lives here at CDE. Secondly, we will be continuing our resource development as we make DBI training modules open to a wider audience through the MTSS Online Academy. Lastly, we will be analyzing our data from the recent training series we completed in the spring of 2021. We are hoping to be able to work within our capacity to scale up this training to make it accessible to a wider audience, potentially making it available to schools that are receiving intensive support from CDE. We could not have done any of this without NCII's guidance. We would like to extend a big thank you to Sarah Benz and Lindsay Hayes and everyone at NCII for their support.